So in this video, we're going to look at an outsourcing decision problem. So your textbook also refers to the outsourcing problems as make or buy decisions. But the first thing I wanted to mention before we get into the actual problem, we're going to be looking at exercise 8-43B, which is on page 494 in your textbook. But before we get to that, I wanted to mention that the terms outsourcing and offshoring actually mean different things. So a lot of times people think they're used interchangeably, but they actually mean different things. So outsourcing means that our company, for example, your textbook talks about Nike. Nike actually has a different company manufacture the products for them. So that's an example of outsourcing. So Nike is the main company, and they're actually paying another company to produce the product. So that's an example of outsourcing. Offshoring means that the items are produced overseas. So here's the thing. Outsourcing doesn't necessarily, like in itself, the term outsourcing does not mean the items are produced overseas. It means they're produced by another company. Offshoring means that the items are produced overseas. So clearly, in the case of Nike, that's typically an example of both outsourcing and offshoring. So it's another company producing the Nike products, and they're also produced overseas. So again, those items actually mean, or those terms actually mean different things. So when we look at exercise 8-43B, and again, I've listed kind of most of the important parts of the problem here. It's telling us that right now, this company is producing a component, and according to our calculations, the component costs us $17 per unit to produce. So that's direct materials per unit of $5.50, direct labor of $6.50 per unit, variable manufacturing overhead, that would be things like indirect materials and utilities, of $2 per unit. And then fixed manufacturing overhead, again, this would be things like property taxes at the factory, supervisor salaries at the factory, insurance at the factory, basically anything that's a fixed cost. Again, here we're assigning $3 per unit to give us the total manufacturing cost of the $17. So in this problem, in the first paragraph, it says that another company has offered to make the component at a cost of $14.10. So when you see the $14.10, again, that means we could buy the product for $14.10. You might automatically be thinking, yes, we should definitely do that. $14.10 is obviously less than $17. However, it's very important to also take into account how the fixed costs may or may not change due to this outsourcing decision. So as I mentioned, fixed costs like insurance at the factory, supervisor salaries at the factory, property taxes, depreciation. So in this case, this is a crucial line in the problem. It says none of the fixed costs will be eliminated if the component is outsourced. So at our factory, again, all of the fixed costs would remain the same. And over here, I would just calculate if it was $3 per unit based on 100,000 units produced, then our total fixed manufacturing overhead, I am off a zero there, would be the 300,000. So I'm just going to make a note that that's our total fixed manufacturing overhead cost. So again, the problem is telling us none of that cost will be eliminated if the component is outsourced. However, if the component is outsourced, the free capacity would be used to build a new product that would have a $30,000 per year contribution margin. So what this is saying is we could use the space that we're currently using to make this item for an item that would have a contribution margin of $30,000 per year. So what I would do in these problems is I would just compare what our total costs to make are, and then what our total costs to buy are. And then, as you'll notice in the problem, it says if we outsource the manufacturing of the component. So again, if we decide to buy the component, will operating income increase or decrease, and by how much? So let's just see. So again, if we make the product, so the cost to manufacture, again, this was 100,000 units times $17 per unit. So our total cost, I think, is 1.7 million. So that's the cost to manufacture. Do you want to say hi?
Hi.
Aw, that was friendly. Okay, so then if we buy, okay, so that side was easy. The make side was easy. So then if we buy the unit, so the cost to purchase, again, we would have to purchase 100,000 units, and the purchase price is $14.10. Okay, so right there, that looks really good. So we would pay $1,410,000. But here's the thing that's a little bit tricky. Even if we buy the component, we still, this is important, let me put this in some color. Let's put it in blue. None of the fixed costs will be eliminated if the component is outsourced. So we still would incur $300,000 of fixed costs on our factory. Again, insurance, salaries, depreciation, property taxes, things like that. So that's important to note. You'll notice we would be able to avoid all of these costs. We would be able to avoid the variable costs. And then the final thing is, so we would have to pay $1,410,000 to purchase. We still have $300,000 of fixed cost, but we would get, so the contribution margin on the new product reduces our cost. So that kind of offsets the fixed cost that we still have. So what this means is the total cost associated with buying is $1,680,000. So clearly you can see this is the better option. So if we manufacture the item, we're going to have to pay the 1.7 million. If we buy it, so if we outsource it, then the total cost is 1,680,000. Your textbook was actually asking what would be the effect on operating income if we decided to purchase the component. And yes, will operating income increase or decrease? So operating income would increase by $20,000. So the difference between the 1.7 and the 1,680,000. The other thing I did want to mention is in this class, there is a tremendous amount of information in Chapter 8. So I will not be asking you questions like number 2. So in number 2, what's the maximum price per unit McCall Enterprise would be willing to pay? I wouldn't ask you a question like that, just because I want to kind of focus on the most important parts of the 6 decision types of problems. Anyway, let me know if you have questions. Thank you.